Well, when you've got a battle on your hands, the one thing you want is air power on your side. And it's pretty fair to say that the battle with climate change is a big one. And what we want is the air power on our side. Well, I'm joined here now in the studio by Group Captain Kevin Billings. Well, Kevin was actually the Assistant Secretary to the Air Force during the George Bush time in the States, and was made an honorary member of the 601 Squadron in the UK with the RAF. So great to have you with us, Kevin. Climate change, how much is that a responsibility for the defence industry and the air forces in particular, as it is for the civil side?
Well, it's actually very important because hotter air and more humid air is less dense air. I mean, it's pure physics. And what it does is it means that there's less lift, so that you will have to use more power to take the same amount of combat capability to the place. It adds risk to planning scenarios, and it stresses engines because, again, the thinner the air, the harder the engines have to work, and all of these things add risk to an already risky situation.
So we take it then that a climate change and global warming could affect the efficiency and effectiveness of air forces.
It absolutely does. We saw that in Iraq in 2011. And also in Libya. You had to fly more sorties because of the heat and bring in more tankers to be able to deliver the same effects as if the air was cooler, you would have been able to do that with less firepower. And not only is it about the physics of delivering capability, when you look at mass migration, you look at sea level rise, all of those things create risk parameters for militaries that create the potential for wars, and we don't want to get into the wars. So there's that part of it, and then there's just the pure physics part. And because militaries are a significant piece of the output, they're a tiny fraction of what the commercial airline industry has, but there's still a significant piece of most governments' climate and carbon emissions. Take for the Great Britain for the United States. The MOD itself is responsible for about 50% of UK whole of government carbon emissions. And of the MOD's portion, the RAF is about 50% of that. So when the Prime Minister and the government made the challenge to get to net zero by 2050, Sir Mike made the determination and the challenge to the RAF that we were going to get to net zero by 2040, and we're on our way.
Okay, so you've recently had the International Air Power Conference. We've seen in the civil side that countries are working together to solve this problem. Is that going to happen with defence, or is it just going to be US, UK kind of collaboration?
No, actually, a year ago, Sir Mike sent out a letter to air chiefs around the world and suggesting that this was a problem that affects the global commons, and we all have a part to play. And quite honestly, most air forces in the world are dealing with this in one way or another. Their governments are demanding that their militaries get involved with this. And so he sent a letter out to his fellow air chiefs suggesting that we put together a collaboration of the world's air forces to share best practices, lessons learned, and ideas among ourselves so we can move along whatever journey we are on faster and better, because we're all smarter together than we are individually. And the response has been terrific. We've had 50 nations participate in one way or another in the collaboration. And last week at the Global Air Chiefs Conference, 37 nations signed up to a declaration of intent to work on climate change together and to move forward in that way. So yes, it is something that the world's air forces are coming together to address. And it's because of Sir Mike's leadership.
So there's that old saying about, when you've got to do change like that, it's crawl, walk, run. Where do you think we are with the defence industry's sustainability efforts?
Each of the countries are in different areas. Where we are with our collaboration, we've had two deputy air chiefs meetings, one in London last October to sort of kick things off, and one this March in Rome to sort of get a vector check and to move it forward. We've stood up 4 working groups, one on operations, which was the first one that was stood up by the United States Air Force to look at operations and mission planning. The second was the infrastructure working group, because we have, taking care of our bases both, at home and deployed. All countries have to deal with that, and the Italians have stood up a working group on that. We had a meeting in March, and we're going to have another meeting this autumn in Verona, at their Air Force Base in Verona. The Canadians recently stood up a working group on mitigation, looking at the encroachment issues that are affecting air bases and their ability to train. One of the things, I was talking with General John Alexander, who is leading the effort for the Royal Canadian Air Force, and they're finding that because the oceans are getting warmer, you're seeing different migration patterns of endangered mammals in the ocean, which is affecting their ability to train. So they've got to adapt to be able to train and take care of it. So, learning from other countries how to deal with that. They're dealing with, earthquakes and forest fires that are, all these type of things are things air forces need to worry about that affect our ability to fly, fight, and win.
Great. Kevin, it's great to know that the industry is actually getting involved with the military as well to make sure these things can happen. So we wish you every good luck in the future to help get that climate changed.
Thank you. We will be bringing in industry and academia and NGOs into our working groups as we go forward. And next year at the Royal International Air Tattoo, we will be holding a working group summit and a briefing for all the air chiefs on the climate change collaboration.
Brilliant. Thank you. Thank you very much.